The WNBA cannot get out of its own way. Have you ever heard me say that before? Yeah, probably a few times. And I want to go over a few clips. Yes, we are going to get some film and explain and show you exactly why this is a serious problem. And this is why you get Congress getting involved, Kathy Engelbert. How is it after getting that letter, you don't fix some of the most obvious problems you have when it comes to your officiating? Because I'm going to show you some plays for which there is zero excuse to not get these calls correct, which means we have some sort of issue with the WNBA and its officiating that seems like it is coming from the top because it is not being fixed. You're not punishing referees. You're not replacing referees. How they are calling games has not changed. So we have a couple of things. First of all, I want to show a little bit about why it's even more incredible what Caitlin Clark is doing in this league when you look at how she is officiated. And then we have another play that is even exposes a more massive problem with the WNBA with everything that is going on right now when it comes to Sophie Cunningham and a very specific issue. And look, this makes it even bigger than Caitlin Clark, because what I show you when you look at this with what happened with Sophie Cunningham and what was called, you can very easily make the same case that, hey, Sophie spoke out on an issue that the WNBA does not like, and now look at how she's being treated. Hostile work environment, unsafe work environment. What are we doing, Kathy Engelbert? So, all right, let's get to the tape. Real quick favor. Like, comment, subscribe. I truly do appreciate it. I think we're at a standstill at this point. I may start really torching this league like big time to where YouTube just says, I'm closing your channel because I don't have anything to lose at this point. So we might loosen things up a little bit. But anyway, let's dig into some of this. So here's one of the massive issues, massive problem is that Caitlin Clark stumbles into that makes the game that much more difficult for her, because we don't see this with other players. And that is this whole idea of freedom of movement. Caitlin Clark cannot dribble the way other players are allowed to. Right there, two hands on. Two hands on. We got one from the front. And if y'all don't think, for those of you who don't play or haven't played, I'm not talking down. I hate when people do that, but I am explaining. If you haven't, I promise you it does not take much in that scenario that you're looking at right there for it to slow a player down enough that you can keep them in front of you, that you can keep them from blowing by you. I'll give you another great example that's similar to that. If she were right foot in front, if the defender were right foot in front, left back, and she takes her right hand and just sort of puts it right, where that hip bone is, puts it right above there, like opens up, but with your hand where you've got your four fingers and your thumb, kind of making almost like a claw there, and you take that space and you just kind of put that there right above the hip. It doesn't take much at all to slow the player down enough it to where you can stay in front. So there's a foul right there. And we keep, I mean, look at that. Look how long look how long that contact is lasting with that left hand. I mean, how do you get by that? You don't get by that, right? That right there, being allowed to do that makes it 1,000 times easier to guard Caitlin Clark, and that's why she ends up in that position where now she's slowed down. She wasn't able to blow by the defender in which she otherwise would. Again, just one more look, just to give you an idea. Okay, boom, two hands on, gonna keep that left hand. Look where Caitlin Clark is. Understand, in a game of basketball, this is an eternity for how long that left hand, now it comes off, how long that left hand stays on Caitlin Clark. Absolutely ridiculous, completely unacceptable, and needs to be fixed. Oh, and again, it works the other way too, which is why I'm gonna show this one, because we've seen this plenty of times as well. When you get a star player in foul trouble, it changes everything about the game. Okay, which is why, look, it can be very difficult. Let me tell you this. It can be very difficult for officials to straight up throw a game for one team over another. but they can greatly, greatly, greatly influence it to having that in your pocket, having that knowledge. You're going to win a lot more bets than you lose. And taking a star player and giving them a quick foul or really two early on in a game changes everything going forward for that game, because it changes how they play on offense. It changes how they play on defense. It might change the amount of minutes they play, the team rotation, so many things. And people sometimes forget about that when a player picks up two fouls that aren't really fouls, 3, 4, 5 minutes into the game. You forget that when you get into the fourth quarter and the game is close. So once again, another clean play by Caitlin Clark, right? There is nothing in that is a foul. There is, let me repeat, nothing at all in this that is a foul. That is absolutely fantastic defense. And yet, foul called on Caitlin Clark. Did Stephanie White challenge that? I am so glad you asked. I have the smartest audience on the internet. No, of course Stephanie White didn't challenge that, because Stephanie White doesn't give a crap. Stephanie White can't stand Caitlin Clark. Stephanie White is a terrible basketball coach, and she is 100% old guard WNBA. And I think Stephanie White needs to be replaced by a man. And I've also thought of showing up to Fever Camp next season, because Stephanie White has made it very clear that she is not an exclusive person. She will never exclude anyone. It is wrong. So I have full confidence that if Stephanie White is the coach of the Indiana Fever next year, I will be on the roster, because her personal belief system does not allow her to exclude me. Sorry, I got on a little bit of a distraction, but now we're going to get to the big winner here. And this is what happened to Sophie Cunningham. This may be, even with Caitlin Clark in this league, this may be the most egregious call I have ever seen in the WNBA. And I 100%, well, I shouldn't say that. Oh, okay, I 100% say it is a combination, maybe 90-10, maybe 99-1, maybe 85-15 of two things. Sophie Cunningham being a rising star and teammate of Caitlin Clark's, and Sophie Cunningham's recent comments on who should be allowed and not allowed to play in the WNBA. Because I'm telling you, there is no other way. By the way, they reviewed this, okay? Understand that when we get to the play. They reviewed this, and the call after review is that it is a foul on Sophie Cunningham. Please understand that. They reviewed it, and they decided this is a foul on Sophie Cunningham. This lady right here, those two officials behind her, should all be fired. They should be. I almost said something I shouldn't say. I wasn't that bad, but I was thinking of, something you might do with, I don't know, like a towel and a bucket of water, and maybe lying them back a little bit. Because there is zero excuse. This to me is corruption. This to me is punishment and creating a hostile, unsafe work environment for Sophie Cunningham, because the WNBA does not like what she said. Oh, am I making too much? Am I making too much of this? Do you think I might be? Well, here you go. Sophie's a little confused, of course. She doesn't understand it at all. How can that be possible? Well, we'll take a look, folks. We're going to take a look. Pay attention to the left arm of the Minnesota Lynx player. That is a knockout blow, folks. By the way, I will say this. That is for any of you who've ever fought MMA, that is a damn strong jaw, because that is, as we say, right on the button. That turns the lights out switch on a lot of fighters. You want to knock somebody out with a shot to the chin? That's how you do it. Didn't knock out Sophie Cunningham, though, Taekwondo black belt. Shout out Sophie as a fellow Taekwondo practitioner. And that was a foul after review, folks. They still called a foul on Sophie Cunningham. Again, pay attention. Hey, remember the other game? Kelsey Mitchell driving to the basket, and her shooting arm might have made contact with the other player's face, and they called a foul on Kelsey Mitchell. Do y'all remember that? I remember that. Let's take another look. Left elbow, Sophie Cunningham standing up. Sophie Cunningham's doing nothing wrong. Sophie Cunningham's playing good defense. Sophie Cunningham takes a hard elbow right to the chin, and they called that on Sophie Cunningham. That right there, as Cheryl Reeve wears her disgusting t-shirt, that right there tells you everything you need to know about the WNBA. It is all about activism. It is all about mental illness, because that's what apparently a lot of these players are. There is no excuse whatsoever for that to be a foul on Sophie Cunningham. That is a complete and total embarrassment for this league. And that is how you get the government to sniff around, you absolute low IQ buffoons. Since we are here, let's look at another play and see how Olivia Miles is treated, because she commits two offensive fouls on this play, neither of which is called, and we've got this slowed down. So watch Olivia Miles with her left hand, folks. Watch her with her left hand if you want to know how she gets by Kelsey Mitchell. And this is not called. Here it comes right there. That is a punch to the side of the head of Kelsey Mitchell, who, of course, grabs that. There's the official right there in front of it. It's a blatant offensive foul. It's a flagrant. Now watch Caitlin Clark. Watch Olivia Miles' right leg. Yeah, she's going up straight like you should, but then look at that angle that it takes as she kicks Caitlin Clark in the knee. And I can't come away from that with anything other than both of these are on purpose. Neither one is incidental contact. She made a fist there, punched her in the side of the head. She's going up. You could see that she's going up naturally with her right leg. She goes straight up, and boom, it comes out to the right to throw that shin. That's a hard bone, by the way. That's what you kick with in MMA. You don't hit with the feet on when you're going that way. You hit with that shin bone. That is painful. Did they call that? No, they did not call that. Just more examples of the absolute insanity of the corrupt WNBA. The entire league got a clean house of the entire league, top to bottom. Kathy Engelbert's got to go, but it makes no difference if you're going to bring in someone like Kathy Engelbert. We need some, yeah, I'm going to say it, some men, and I mean real men, not the type of men who currently cover the WNBA, because they're no different than the Kathy Engelberts and the Cheryl Reeves and the officials of this league. We need all new officiating. We need to entice the top NCAA officials to bring them into the WNBA. All of this needs to be cleaned up. The Indiana Fever basically start a game 10 or 15 points behind unofficially just because of the officiating. You want to ask why players might not want to come to Indy? It's not because they don't like, because of the fans are going to be a problem, or because they don't like Caitlin Clark. It's going to be because of how they are treated and officiated by playing in Indy. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. I will talk to you later.